The Sealand Fire incident is one of South Korea's biggest tragedies, and still till this day, people think that the real truth is out there. So what actually caused the fire? Where were the teachers really at the time of the incident, and why were none of their students rescued? Why are building materials and following the strict safety guidelines so important? I've actually learned a lot today from today's case. I learned so much that I'm going to be very careful of what buildings or questionable buildings or houses that you guys might enter. Today's story, I think, relates a lot to the housing crisis that happened very recently because of COVID. There's so many houses in the US that was built from 2020 to 2022 because there was a lot of supply issues. They would use cheap materials to create these houses. They're built with such cheap, unsafe materials, and you think that building is a building. No. Today's story is going to change your mind about how important building structures are. This story was featured in Gokgomu. Gokgomu is where they cover all these crazy cases that happen in South Korea. But these shows are in Korean, so it seems like a lot of you guys want to know these stories translated in English. As you guys know, sometimes these stories can be hard to monetize and spread the word, so clicking the like button, subscribing, sharing this video with your friends really helps me to keep going. And of course, today's partnership, Harry's, who have been the biggest supporter of true crime content at Pretty Pits. I don't know if you can see. Harry's is the only blades that I use to shave. They're German manufactured, portable premium blades that gives a close, comfortable, smooth shave. Even if it's winter, I work out, I still wear skirts. I use this razor for bikini lines. I've been talking about them for over a year. They have sleek designs with improved grip, and 50% of the plastic is recycled. There's no pink taxes, so this is one of the most affordable premium blades that you could get. Their foaming shave gel goes from gel to foam. It's pretty cool. It includes ingredients like aloe and hyaluronic acid. I take it with me whenever I go on vacation and flights because I just cannot use any other blades. If you want to try Harry's, they only make it $5 for the starter set if you use my link down below. You get a 5-blade razor, weighted handle, a blade cover, and even a foaming shave gel. I mean, how much more affordable can you get? I love working on these contents. It means so much that you guys are just checking out my sponsors and supporting my channel. It was June 29th of 1999. In South Korea, elementary school and kindergarten students were scheduled to go on an exciting field trip. But this field trip was 1 night, 2 days. It's not so common to hear, I guess, these days about a sleepover field trip in schools. I guess there was just too many problems, especially kindergarten or elementary school students. But I even remember when I was younger and growing up in South Korea, we would go on these field trips. It was super exciting. We would sleep over. And it was common for parents to trust the school system or church systems to take care of their kids. It's really a fun memory for that age. So I even remember going on these field trips. So these kids going on these field trips back in 1999 were aged 4 to 7-ish. I was that age back in 1999. So these kids would be around my age in 2022 or 2023. Parents say that the kids were so excited the day before. They would pack their own toys and clothes. And technically for these kids, it was one of their first time going on a sleepover field trip. A total of 551 people, including the students, teachers, and staff, were to go on this trip and was to be held at Hwaseong-gun province. It was also not just one school, it was multiple schools going at the same time. That's why it mounted up to that many people. And one of the girls that went on the trip was named Sera. She would wear her favorite Sailor Moon pajamas to this field trip, and her father says that again, she was so excited. Here's a photo and video of what the camp looked like. It is huge. There's so many activities for kids, even the merry-go-round, a big pool. There was a lake nearby. It's a lot of nature. All day they played in the waters. There was so much activities, games. There was a talent show. There was even a campfire where they would eat, delicious food and snacks and desserts. I really do think that the teachers and staff did their best to keep these kids happy. And this is going to be very important information coming back to the teachers. The schedule that day for the kids ended at 9 p.m. and the kids all went into their rooms to sleep. It was actually a 3-story building, and on each floor, which was just like a long hallway, there was 26 rooms. So there's 550 people that's staying in this 3-story, which seems very small for 550 people. That's a lot of people. So they had to cram actually 15 to 18 kids in each rooms, which was kind of common back then. Like, I remember going to church field trips and I was sleeping with kids like left and right to me, just all filled. But the kids who've been playing in water all day, they say were so tired they just knocked out. If you guys remember when you were a child, sleep just hit different. Like when you're a child, you don't wake up easily because kids don't really have self-control, and this is also going to be a big factor in today's mystery. So parents went to work, got home, slept. They felt great that there was no kids for at least one day. But father of 7-year-old Sarah, who wore that Sailor Moon pajamas, remember waking up the next day very early in the morning after midnight. On June 30th, he would get a frantic call from a relative telling him to turn on the TV. He turned on the TV, and it was all over the news that a fire broke out at Sealand camp, exactly where his daughter Sarah was supposed to be at. On TV, this fire was literally burning the whole building down. And by this time, actually, they were able to figure out who passed away. And the father saw Sarah's name on TV as one of the kids who died. Think about how you would feel as a father or a mother seeing your child's name on the death list. My heart would shatter. So what the heck happened? So this building actually had only 2 exits because it was like a long row on the left and the right. Now during this time, apparently some of the teachers, not all, but some of the teachers after 9 p.m. they decide to have their own meeting, kind of wind down with a little soju and wine, talk about how their day went and the next day what they were going to do and who was in charge of what, which is very important, right? To have like a teachers meeting. It was around 1 a.m. June 30th. So right after the kids went to sleep, when teacher Song was in his room, still awake, and noticed that there was some smoke. Like he smelled something, he saw some white smoke. He went out of his room, he was on the 3rd floor, and saw the whole hallway just filled with white smoke. He realized that there has to be a fire somewhere in one of the rooms on 3rd floor, so he decided to run to the fire alarm and start to bang on it so that the alarm would go off. He noticed that the fire alarm was broken, or it just didn't work. Who knows why it didn't work, but it wouldn't ring. So next thing he could do was to just yell from the 3rd floor, banging on each door as much as he can, telling people to rush out and leave the building because there's a fire. When he was screaming fire, at least thank God on the 2nd floor, some of the teachers heard that and started to evacuate immediately. The difficult part was we're talking about over 500 people here. So think about waking up sleepy kids at 1 a.m. It's going to be very difficult. As he was banging on the door and telling people to leave, Mr. Song tried to at least find out which room the fire was coming from. So he opened each door and finally got to room 301. Now, Mr. Song noticed that room 301 was the room where the fire started because that's where the thick black smoke just rushed into his face when he opened the door. This is when the worst of all happened, which was the lights just completely went out and it was now pitch black in the whole entire building. So you can't even see anything. You can't see any kids who's coming in or out. Once he got to room 301, he had his fire extinguisher in his hands. He pulled the knob and guess what? The fire extinguisher was broken. Nothing was coming out. When the extinguisher failed, he noticed that in room 302 and other rooms, kids were screaming. So the next thing he thought of in pitch black was to try and get to those rooms and evacuate those kids. And that's what he did. He tried to grab as many students as he can. Of course, there were some other adults there that tried to help. And he says that the smoke became so thick that one of the other teachers, which was actually his wife, grabbed some wet towels for him to just bite into, and then rotating his breath because if you breathe in too much of the smoke, you're going to pass out. So he tried to rescue everyone from room 302 that he can, and that's when the big explosion happened. Other witnesses say that they saw these like electric circuits, kind of like lightning, when you see electrical circuits breaking, lighting up, and that's when the big explosion happened. And that's when the fire literally spread throughout the whole building within a blink of an eye. Witnesses say that it only took a minute or two for each room to be completely burnt and filled with fire. From the first discovery of the fire to the big boom, it was only about 20 minutes. So only 20 minutes to try and alert and evacuate 550 people inside. Another unfortunate thing, this place was very secluded. I mean, this is like a field trip place out in, where the lakes are. So fire department actually takes 30 to 40 minutes just to come to this place. And by this time, the whole building was already on fire. It was too late. They missed the golden time that they could tame the fire, and it was only by 4:30 a.m. that the whole fire was put out. The firefighters started to look to see if there were any survivors or any dead bodies that they would run into, and thankfully on the first floor everybody survived. On the second floor, everybody but one little girl survived. It was little girl Hay who didn't make it. The third floor where the fire broke out was the worst of it all. They found that all the kids in room 301 passed away. 18 kids in room 301. On top of that, 4 teachers lost their lives trying to save the children. And again, everybody was on the third floor that died, and even the teachers were very young. One of the teachers was only 23 years old. In total that day, 23 people lost their lives to the Sealand Fire. When the rescue team entered room 301, they say that it was like mountain of ashes and it seems like these kids were hurtling up to the window, and that's how they died. These kids were alive when this happened. They were screaming, nobody could help them, and they literally burned alive. It's hard enough for us to hear, but think about the parents who had to hear this detail. And of course, later we'll find out Sarah was in that room, the girl with the Sailor Moon pajamas. The next day, the parents frantically ran to the mortuary, and they actually told the parents to not even look at their children, not even really have to confirm who they are, because they were just severely burnt. Almost there was no way to even confirm that this was your child, and it would probably give you trauma for the rest of your life. But Sarah's father decided to look at their daughter, and he was able to confirm that it was her because on her right or left leg, there was a little tiny Sailor Moon logo on it, and he knew that that was his daughter. So remember, all the kids went to sleep at around 9 p.m. Room 301, where the fire started, there was no teachers. Now, the teachers of this school, this kindergarten or elementary school, claimed that they were all having a meeting after. Some teachers say, yeah, they were drinking. Some teachers say, no, we weren't. I don't know if they were trying to cover things up. Now, this is the important information. They claimed that they were right across room 301, which was room 314. Now, this is a mystery. Is it possible for teachers to be right across that room, not realizing a fire broke out or started, not even save any of the kids, and they just ran out of the room? According to Mr. Song, who was the one who first discovered the fire and started banging on the doors, he claims that he never saw anyone come out of room 314. Other witnesses who were on the third floor say that they never saw anyone come out of that room either. To say that they were right across the room, didn't smell anything, didn't see anything, and just ran out with no kids, seems a little interesting. And this is why there's a theory out there that they believe that the teachers were actually outside of the building having a little bit of, pork, grilled pork, and drinking. That's why they were unable to help or save these kids or have these kids attended. Investigators started to work right away to find the cause of the fire. And this is the part, again, that parents just cannot cope with, because only 2 days into the investigations, they claim that they found it. They found the sole reason why the fire started, and it was all because of this mosquito repellent. Have you guys ever seen mosquito repellent like this before? This is actually a very popular mosquito repellent from the 80s, 90s, maybe early 2000s in Asia. I remember my grandmother always having this at her house. This is basically like an incense where you light it up, and just like incense or cigarettes, it burns around and is supposed to kind of repel mosquitoes because they don't like that scent. How can mosquito repellents cause this big of a fire? And how were they able to find that within just 2 days? Wouldn't this investigation take a long time? One of the teachers who was outside claimed that they saw electrical circuits, wires buzzing before the big boom happened. We'll come back to this, but this detail seemed to not really alarm the investigators. Now, in this room particularly, they did have 2 mosquito repellents. They had one near this wooden basket near the walls and another one near the window. Investigators believe that the repellent that was against the walls caught fire in this wooden basket, which ultimately led to this huge fire. So later on, documentary crew, a group of independent investigators, decide to do their own testing to see if mosquito repellents really can cause a big fire. So there was 4 tests, one with the mosquito repellent on top of a tissue, one on top of a jacket, and one on top of a blanket, and another test with a blanket covering the repellent to see if it caused fire. Now at first you would think, hell yeah, I mean, smoke butts, cigarettes can definitely cause fire, especially in the forest. But when they did these tests, none of them caused any fire. The worst of it was just a little burnt. Even a tissue didn't even cause fire with the repellents. Here is a photo of the building after it was burnt out. People were shocked to see that this was not a building. This was just containers that was stacked on top of each other. Now to cover these containers, it seems like the material that was used was cheap materials like styrofoam. Styrofoam's used for walls and exteriors, and styrofoam is one of the worst things when it comes to fire. Fire loves styrofoam, you guys. It eats it up like gas. I mean, this is one of the reasons why the witnesses saw these rooms, especially 2nd and 3rd floor, only being engulfed by flames within seconds. And storage containers can be very dangerous because it's hard to insert any proper circuits, electrical circuits, proper safety measures. I mean, you can't even put exits in the middle of this building. It has to be on the sides. I believe this is one of the reasons why the fire alarm didn't even work, because the electrical circuits were not placed right. I mean, it was almost as if this fire alarm was a decoration. It didn't even work. There's also no balconies you could place with containers. These are so dangerous, and to just stack them on top of each other and have 550 people sleep in them. Mr. Park, who is the Sealand building, the field trip's owner, was investigated, and they asked him why he built this building out of container boxes. And he claimed that he wanted to save money. It was a lot cheaper. Not only that, but the city, the board actually approved this container building without even pre-checking it. Technically, legally, he was able to build this actually because they approved it. There's also evidence that the Sealand building received multiple electrical circuit warnings saying that nothing was really properly placed, but still nothing had been done about it. So how about the kids though? That's also a mystery. Why weren't none of the kids in room 301 at least being able to escape themselves, even if there was no teacher in there? Some believe that the room was locked, although this could be never confirmed. There's also rumors, this is a rumor, it's not confirmed, that there were nail scratch marks on the container boxes, believing to be the kids scratching it because they couldn't get out. But that's just a rumor. I'm not sure if that's a true fact or not. But experts believe that what actually could have happened was that the kids smelled the thick black smoke, passed out before they even were able to reach the door and leave. But again, you know, some of the kids were found near the window, so it seems like, you know, there was a fire there that they could not reach the door. Another mystery, the little girl that died on the 2nd floor, Heji, you know, why was she left behind? Some teachers say that they clearly remember tapping her to wake up and leave. But again, the electrical circuits went out. It was pitch black. They probably might have forgotten one person. But why was she not able to leave or be rescued? That's also a mystery. Now, in the end, they prosecuted Mr. Park, who was sentenced to 5 years in jail. The chief of the kindergarten in room 301, he was sentenced to 2 years and 6 months. And one of the teachers of the class received 2-year probation. Families actually believe that there is a greater reason why this fire started, and they believe that it could have been the electrical circuits. But why the police didn't want to investigate that farther, rather it was too complicated, or maybe it would have exposed someone that they didn't want to, a whole electrical company maybe that didn't want to be responsible for this. Was it fair that also the teachers got a sentencing, or maybe just one of the teachers? Maybe all of the teachers should have? Now, I mean, it is really tricky because I do believe that the teachers really did their best to keep their children happy throughout the day, giving them activities and, you know, spending all their energy and time, but to not surveillancing them while they were sleeping, which is when they're the most vulnerable. Not even having one person supervising them is what ultimately led to these kids to all pass away. If they were truly right across the room and not outside potentially where people believe they actually were at, and saved at least a couple kids, but none of the teachers saved any of the kids in room 301. Today, these kids would be in their late 20s or early 30s. They would have been living and thriving in their adult life, but unfortunately it was cut short for them at such a young age. So what do you guys think? Do you guys really think that the mosquito repellent was the cause of this fire? Or is there some other explanation that was not investigated that seems to be the cause of this fire? This story has taught me so much about how important building structures are. It's something that we really never think about when we walk in anywhere. So if you're ever going into a building or a new house, make sure that they're not using crappy material like styrofoams for walls. Yearly in this condo, there's someone that comes in to check the fire alarm system. Again, that's how it should be. These safety measures should be checked every single year, although it's annoying for people to come into your house and check these things. It's allowed, it's annoying, but there's a reason why we do these things, because it's that one incident when you believe nothing will happen, when a tragedy can happen, and just like today's story, it can go so wrong with so many innocent lives being taken away. So if you have these fire drills, just be grateful that they're working. If there's any cases that you guys want me to cover, remember to comment down below or email me here, askgrazy@gmail.com. Thank you so much for watching. Check out Harry's, leave a like, and see you in my next video.